Hello, Devlin here with you, and it's another edition of my weekly Devlin Bishop show. And Corda is also here, all smiles. If we look a little different this week, it's because we actually switched cameras. I was watching on YouTube the other day, and I realized that my camera looks a little murky. And so I demanded Corda hand over her good camera, and she take my crappy one. Well, it was sort of like that, but I'm trying to make it worse. But anyhow, we are going to order another one of these ones because I actually don't think it looks bad when we record. Like you look actually really good.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it turns out. Yeah,
Yeah. But I was doing some and it just didn't look right. So I need the best possible
of course.
abilities I can. How are you doing today, Corda?
Oh, I'm fine. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
As I said, I've been doing tests all weekend for doing some online filming,
Hmm.
and I'm excited to say that you might get to see some Mondo Nostalgia Live coming soon, where we're going to just be on Facebook all of a sudden.
That'd be awesome.
Um, we will announce some, and then other times I'm just going to put it on, and you can hop in and talk to me. There'll be, if I just put it as a Devlin, you know, online night.
Hmm.
Basically, we can talk about just about anything. You can ask me questions. You can just, you know, tell me what's on your mind. It doesn't have to all be about pop culture. But when I do the designated Mondo Nostalgia, there'll probably be certain things I want to talk about, but I'll want your feedback as well. So, yeah, look for them. They'll be coming soon. We've been testing it, and so far, so good. It's just more stuff we're trying to add to Mondo Nostalgia. Anyhow, we have a guest today, so I don't want him to wait too long. He has been here on my regular podcast that I used to do audio. He has done this even at least once. I don't
Yeah,
know if he's done it twice. I don't think
I think just
anybody's come
once.
back a second time.
No.
But he's back a second time, and hopefully he'll be back a third and a fourth because I love talking movies with this guy. Today's guest is Luther Griggs, returns to the Devlin Bishop Show. And Heather will just bring him in.
There he is.
That is Luther Griggs right there for those of you
Here
who
I am.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Very excited to be on the show. It'll definitely be my highlight of the day.
Oh, we love hearing that.
Yeah.
Can we use that in a quote when we promote the show?
Yeah, completely.
I don't know, do you hear us when you're not on screen and we're doing your introduction?
No, I can't.
Okay.
No.
I was just mentioning, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually been working on trying to do live online feeds,
Okay.
as in all this weekend. Sunday was successful to an extent, um, where I just go online and people can just come in, ask me questions, comment, talk. And I told them there'll be two kinds. There'll be one that's just me, Devlin, coming on, and then other times I'm gonna let people know that at 7 o'clock we're going Mondo Nostalgia Live, and I
Hmm.
may have topics to talk about. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Yesterday's was a success, except I was talking and talking, and I had two comments, and I answered the two comments, and I kept begging people to comment. I had two or three people, and I just keep rambling on, and saying, well, and then I realized that when I pulled down the tab, there was a ton of comments, and I missed,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I even missed my friend Dave and Damien both popping in saying hello, and then they left because they're like, oh, ignoring me, no. But once I got it figured out, it was great. I had two ladies that I was talking about, but I have to start learning my etiquette with that because of the fact that one woman I was talking about work, and the other woman I was talking about British comedies. And I have to learn to stay on one topic and then go back and say, okay, now I'm going to talk to Jen. So, but it was fun and it was great. And I just
it sounds cool. If I knew it was going on, I would have tuned in for sure. I'll if I can the next time you do it, I'll definitely
Well,
love to
as I
watch.
said, with the Mondo Nostalgia ones, it's going to be like specific things I want to talk about. So I will, like, you just go to the Facebook page and it'll say, and the cool thing is I can keep it. So if you miss it, you can actually rewatch it. It's just
Cool.
me answering comments and stuff. But I was just so happy people were actually popping in and commenting and stuff. and it was just great. And it was my version of Bell's Let's Talk. You know, I don't like to just put a, let's talk about it. I actually like to go on and actually, yeah, I'm here for you, so talk to me, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But it was really kind of neat. And as I said, the Mondo nostalgia ones, I will let people know, like I will be here at 7 o'clock or something like
Hmm.
that. But every once in a while, sometimes I get a little lonely and I get tired of watching TV and I have no more projects I want to work on. So I just want to pop in and just, okay, I'm here. Who's here? And I think that'd be fun. Um,
Oh
I,
yeah,
I,
totally.
I said to Mike, I should try to do it, when I can't sleep at 3 in the morning and see who's up. But then I thought, yeah, but then I'd probably keep Mike up because I talk pretty loud. So, and they'll be like, is he talking to himself again? So quarantine continues. We are here in Hamilton, and I'm in Stony Creek, which is pretty much the same thing. So lockdown continues, and I was just telling everybody that I love talking movies, and I actually love talking anything with you. I actually want to have you on one day, and we do something different, like talk about
Yeah.
music or something. I'd
Oh
love.
yeah. That would be
Um,
great.
yeah, because I know a lot of music, you know a lot of other music, and so it'd be fun to see. But I definitely,
For sure.
we had an album that I was blown away that you and I really liked, both ELO's Time. And I
Yes.
honestly never met anyone in my life who enjoyed that as much as me.
Hmm.
And I loved,
I
yeah,
I don't want to go off on too much of a music tangent. I haven't listened to that record in so long, and just like you reminding me of it is like, oh wow, I really need to return to that. I think I've been in a bit of a lull musically, listening to music, anyways.
yeah,
So I think yeah, once I get home, I'll definitely be blasting it. And I mean home in like I know you guys already know, but just for the show, I'm at my
yeah,
partner Mariel's house right
yeah.
now. But yeah, Time, great record. I love that front to back, all hits. Great album.
Yeah. It's I won't go into it too much because I actually wouldn't mind talking fully about it because I think that album doesn't get loved enough. But
Mm-hmm.
I just wish their record company saw the brilliance of it because they were basically told, yeah, okay, you did that album. Can we get more pop stuff? And then Devlin basically said, okay, we owe them 3 albums. I'm going to just give them exactly what they want and get out of this contract because they don't see that I'm trying to build something different. So it's sad that, you know, on Time, all they saw was, could we get more Hold On Tight? Because that was kind of a top 40 single, where the other ones were, you kind of listen to the whole album, but enough of that. I like to see what you've been doing. Like, what have you been watching? I know you've been watching lots of movies, I'm sure.
Oh, so this is just a full out cold call.
We're going to start just letting everybody
Okay.
know what we're doing. And since we can't go out and do a lot of stuff, I guess we have to talk
Yeah.
about what.
Well, I think well last year, 2020, I watched more movies than I ever have in an entire year. Like I watched 420 movies last year.
Wow.
um, yeah, I because I use Letterboxd, so I log everything that I watch, and I have like this. I'm like a pro member or whatever, so it gives me my like year end thing, and it lets me know like how many movies I watched and the most movie, like how many times I watched a movie and stuff like that. I watched a lot. I watched a lot of great movies that I had never seen before and was really stoked on. But I think because I kind of used 2020 as a year to like just soak in everything and watch a lot of movies that I had never seen. I think since the new year has started, I've just been rewatching a lot of stuff and like trying to feel comfortable. And I think it goes for anybody. Like, right now it's a bit stressful, especially when it's like you feel like things are supposed to be better, but they're not really getting better.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's like
no.
I think I'm doing a lot to just like make myself feel comfortable.
No,
um,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like for you, you have been off since March, right? Like you didn't go back
yes.
for that. So when
No,
I
no.
always talk about the second lockdown, I forget that there are people. And last week we had my brother on, and he's been off since March too. So for you
Hmm.
guys, it's just one big lockdown still. But
Yeah.
I kind of had a taste of the world again. Not much of it, I went to work and
Yeah.
that's about it. And maybe I did go to the theater a few times to promote the Playhouse, but I keep forgetting that for you guys are just kind of still in it, where I'm like
Yep.
back in it, where I'm having a hard time because I maybe it was bad that I got that taste of like, oh, we're getting better, and then it was told, no, we're not. Go back
Yeah.
inside. But I always knew this one would be harder for me, and so far I'm holding out okay. My facial expressions say otherwise, but yeah, it's been tougher. So, but I actually want to go on something that you said. I recently posted something on Facebook, and I don't usually go too deep on my Mondo nostalgia, but they actually said that a lot of people rewatch old TV series and movies during times like this
Mhm.
because it's less anxiety because you know how it's going to wrap up and you
Yeah.
know how things are. Not to mention, if you watch a movie that you absolutely love, you
Yes.
know that, oh, here's a scene. Oh, I love this scene and stuff.
Exactly.
And I loved, and there was a couple other ones too, talking about why people, it's like comfort food for your head. Because sometimes I find trying to put on a new show during times where I have a lot of anxiety, I can do it, but I don't know if I'm getting everything I should out of it. So when I put
Totally.
on something that's old, it's like, okay, I know how it's going to play out. I know what
Mhm.
songs are coming up. I know what storyline twists are coming up, and I don't have to worry about it. Is that how
Mhm.
you feel too sometimes?
Oh yeah, totally. It's funny because like it's definitely something I've thought about and been aware of, but I think like I was saying last year, I was like really eager to have a lot of downtime, and like I felt like I did a lot of like felt like I was catching up and just watching stuff that I had been wanting to watch for a really long time, or spending a lot of time trying to discover new things and find things that I think I would be interested in. But like I think I just would. I think come January, I was just very like looking through movies, looking through my movies, going through streaming services, being like, oh, like I've been meaning to watch this forever, but I'm like, I just don't have the energy for it right now.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because like I'll go through and like find this movie that I've been wanting to watch for so long. Everyone says it's so good and I want to see it. But then like I told you in the first week of January, I think in one night I watched like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Who Framed Roger's Rabbit, um,
Who Framed
Pink
Roger's Rabbit?
Flamingos.
I I think how
Yeah.
you pronounce that. That's a whole different movie, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, but and like Welcome to the Dollhouse, and like I just like watching like and I'd spend an entire night, and it's just like sometimes you just need to be cradled by comfort, I feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just definitely what I've been doing lately. I've been watching a lot of the TV show House as well, which is like House is House, it's a hospital drama, but I grew up watching it, so I think I've been enjoying just like the nostalgic feeling of watching that as well. I think something that I did watch recently that I was like really stoked on that I had never seen was Flatliners, the original one.
Nice. Good movie.
Yeah, and I really really liked that. I think last year because the news was so hectic and there was so much going on. I remember I found out that Joel Schumacher died like a week or two after he passed, and
Yeah.
I was so bummed about it. And like even though I haven't seen that many of his films, like the Batman films are ones that like I grew up watching and are really important to me, and ones that I'm growing to appreciate even more right now. And my partner really likes Lost Boys, and I think I was like, I had never seen Flatliners. My grade 8 teacher had a Flatliners poster in our classroom, and I always wanted to see it, but never got around to it. And I'm like, I think this will be a fun movie to watch. And I think his style is so well concentrated in that movie because obviously Lost Boys is about like vampires. It's kind of hokey, and Batman is Batman. It's a comic book movie, but I feel like Flatliners is like a story that doesn't necessarily have to be so over stylistic,
No,
but the
not at
flat
all. Yeah,
yeah, and as you
absolutely.
know, It's just people, you know, trying to see what comes after death. Yet they're in a hospital that's a giant, like, abandoned church, and it's so weird and creepy looking. And Kiefer Sutherland's apartment is like everything's painted white. The ceilings are like 20 feet high, and like he has neon lights on his floor. And like, I think they're like half the shots in the film. There's like some sort of like weird, bright, shining light, like shaking on everyone's face. And it was just like so ridiculous, but still really cool, I felt in the same way. And I think it's unfortunate because I feel like after the Batman films and he just started doing like courtroom dramas, and he's like, no one wants to see my crazy, you know, wind through blowing through every character's hair with like, you know, stark red lighting and curtains flowing. And
I'm a huge Joel Schumacher fan. I think a lot of that is probably from his gay side. Being a gay man, I don't feel like I'm dissing him in any way. I absolutely love Joel Schumacher. I always get flack for it, but if I did my top 10 favorite superhero films, Batman Forever would certainly be up there.
yeah, same
Um,
here.
yeah, and I love Lost Boys, and I actually forgot that he did Flatliners. And as for you mentioned his courtroom drama, I think I talked to you about this, but I can never remember if we did it online or not. I recently, a couple of months ago, showed Damien A Time to Kill, which was a
Mhm.
movie that came out about a year from Batman Forever, and it's my favorite courtroom drama. And yes, even I like it better than To Kill a Mockingbird. And I showed it to Damien, and Damien was really impressed by it. It doesn't have flowing hair, but you definitely see his stylization. But
Yeah.
what's powerful is I think it's his most dramatic film, and I always tell people when they call him fluff, they should watch A Time to Kill because it is a really powerful film and definitely appropriate for this time with the Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. Uh, yeah, he just did an incredible film, and I think people forget like it was a huge hit, and he actually made Matthew McConaughey a star. He fought to have Matthew McConaughey in that role because when he came in, he nailed it, and Warner Brothers said, "We don't want him. He's not that, you know, he had Dazed and Confused, and that's about it." And he said, "We don't
Hmm.
want him." And he made a deal with them that said, "If I stack the deck with big stars all around him, would you
Hmm.
consider me having him for his lead?" And they said, "What can you get?" And it's like, Sandra Bullock, Kevin Spacey, Samuel L. Jackson. And they're like, "Yeah, okay, we can do this." And you know, those were all, you know, big heavy hitters, no matter what you might feel about them now and stuff. But at the time, they were top of their game, and they said, "Okay, you got a chance." And Matthew McConaughey was born. Then he made a couple of bad films, disappeared, but then he had the Reconnaissance or whatever that was called. And Lost Boys, people forget that Lost Boys was one of the first. I don't know if this is a positive or a negative for some people, but Lost Boys kind of started that whole sexy vampire trend. Like, I think vampires were always sexy, but he brought in the long coats and the leather jackets and,
Hmm.
you know, and he brought that element, which became something that you'd see in a lot of movies following, where vampires were sexy before, but they were always wearing capes or top coats and stuff like that. So he kind of brought that glamorous, you know, edge to it.
For sure. Yeah, he's definitely like, after watching Flatliners, I definitely want to make my way through his filmography, because even though he might not be doing stuff that's as like glitzy and glamorous as like Batman or Flatliners or Lost Boys, yeah, I'd say, you know, he's undeniably has an interesting style, and I'm interested in how it kind of seeps through and is more serious or just like straight drama films rather than like genre type films.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. I think the Batman movies hurt him a lot, even though they made a lot of money. And I know lots of people, you know, like I'm not the biggest fan of Batman and Robin, but I still get a lot of enjoyment watching it.
Oh yeah.
I think it's
How
still a
couldn't
lot
you?
of
There's
fun.
giant pink fluffy gorillas in like the first 20 minutes or whatever.
Yes, and bat skates and bat credit cards.
Oh
And,
my god. And Uma Thurman's great in it. I think I don't know. Like obviously it's a ridiculous film, but there is so
but you know
much
what?
to
I
like about
agree
it.
with you. I think Uma Thurman plays it up well. I actually think Arnold Schwarzenegger is really like good in it. I really think he's when he gets to the scenes with his wife and stuff like that. I'm like,
Mhm.
we don't get to see Arnie do this kind of stuff too much, and so I'm not saying that's his greatest film role, but it's up there, people. Who would have thought? See, that's what I love talking open ended with you. Here we go. We just praise Joel Schumacher. I didn't even do it as much when he died, and I'm a big fan of his. I think I did talk about him on the podcast before.
Mhm.
But yes, go check out some Joel Schumacher today. I
Rest in peace.
Yes, rest in peace. He gave us a lot of great movies, whether you want to admit it or not.
And he's so cool. Like I don't know if you've watched many interviews with him, but he's just like so like cool. He's just like when he talks, he's just kind of like I make movies and I like doing it, and he's not like pretentious at all. He's just like a happy-go-lucky guy, but he has that sort of like smooth, suave edge to him. I don't know. I just think he's such a cool dude,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, no, I always like those directors who are unapologetic and just like, well, I'm sorry you didn't like it. And he did. He eventually did apologize for Batman and Robin, and he actually wanted to do another Batman movie, but everybody's like, we're not giving you the Batman keys
Hmm.
again. Um, but I love directors like, my love for John Waters, where he's just like, yeah, okay, some of my movies were messed up in the early years, but hey, so was I. And another one, which is going to be a nice segue to the first thing I want to talk about, is I still love. There was a documentary I watched called Star Wait, which was all about people waiting in line to see the Phantom Menace. Actually, it was they were in line to see the second one, Attack of the Clones, and there was a scene where one of they decided it'd be fun to get George Lucas to call one of the people randomly in line. And
Hmm.
so I don't know how they did it, but they got George Lucas to call, and the guy decided, he was gushing about, I love Star Wars, everything, but he decided he had enough nerve to ask, well, what are your thoughts to fans that didn't like the Phantom Menace? And his attitude was so badass that even though this guy didn't like the Phantom Menace, he said, you know what? I didn't like the movie, but I liked his response. And he was like, when I make movies, I make them for me. I enjoyed it. If you didn't, I'm sorry, but I did the best I could. And it was just so like, and I've heard he's a really, he can be very pretentious, but I love that
For
he's
sure.
also just like, I made the movie I wanted to make. I'm not going to admit if I had problems with it because I liked it. So, and the guy had a lot of respect for him. But that leads me because I have been obsessed. Now, Luther doesn't even know what I'm really talking about here, do you? That I told you I've been obsessed. Now, I wanted to do a whole segment of weird scenes in movies because you and I like to analyze movies, but we're actually going to analyze one scene. And I know you've seen The Empire Strikes Back. Many people
Hmm.
consider it the greatest of the Star Wars movies. And there is a scene that I recently posted a meme up for that got me so obsessed thinking about this scene that I actually wanted to talk about a whole bunch of scenes that are weird in movies that nobody ever talks about. And I couldn't think of a lot of them because I just didn't try. But there is a scene in Empire Strikes Back that as a kid, when I watched it, and I would have been, I think I was 12 when I saw Empire Strikes Back, that I always just thought was an awesome scene. But as I got to be an adult, I just think it's a weird scene. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't hurt the movie in any way. But do you remember the scene where Darth Vader is revealed on Cloud City? And Lando takes Han and Leia to dinner, and they have this
Hmm.
lovely dinner prepared. And when the door opens, Darth Vader is sitting at the head of the table. Dinner is prepared, like they got all the dishware, and then Han,
Hmm.
pulls out his gun, and Darth
And just
basically
shoots.
right now that doesn't bother me. But what's okay? Here's my question to you, Luther. You're gonna think about this scene just as much as I have because it's blowing my mind, okay? When I saw this as a kid, I never thought anything of it. Did Darth Vader decide, let's have a dinner for them? Like this will be their final meal. And I will sit at the head of the table like uncle or something and surprise them, almost like surprise. Or was it just like Lando set up this dinner and then he said, well, they are going to be coming out to dinner. You could ambush them there. And Darth came into the room and said, I think I'll just sit. I think it'll be pretty, because to me it's weird that Darth Vader, who usually just comes in, chokes you, decides, like, is this showing his sense of humor? Like, I'm just going to sit at the head of the table. Have you ever given any thought to this? And have I blown your mind to the point that you probably won't sleep tonight because you'll be thinking,
I think maybe.
And did they have the dinner? If you remember, after Han shoots and he blasts it, the door closes. And I just think, did they have dinner? Because the next thing we see is Han being tortured. But I wondered, did they get a little meal out of it? Did Darth talk about, here's my plan. Luke's going to come. And no, please, I can't eat because I have a mask. Like, this scene is blowing my mind. How come we can't talk about this scene more? Yet it's still amongst the greatest Star Wars movies of all time.
That is, yeah, it's definitely, I don't even know how to approach this.
It made me laugh when I thought about it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it.
I guess if you think about it, like what else is like Lando gonna do? Like just like hang out in my, like, come on guys, hang out in my lounge while I wait for my boss to come and, like, I don't know, capture you or freeze you in carbonite or whatever. Like, I guess Lando had to have them do something. Maybe like Vader was supposed to come earlier and Lando's like, oh dang, like what are we gonna do? How are we gonna kill time? And like decides to have them for dinner, I guess.
Yeah, see, my only thing is maybe they arranged dinner and Darth just showed up.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of the opposite of what I said.
Lando was like, you can go to their room and take Han and Leia, which would actually probably make more sense. But Darth was like, no, you know what? I'll just meet them at the dinner. We can have a chat there,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could get me a straw, and when nobody's looking, I could get some soup or something,
Yeah, this just it raises a whole other question of like, does Darth Vader like eat food, or does like, do you think he just has like some sort of like nutrient tube in his suit that like an IV drip or something that gives him all his nutrients?
Luther, comfort me here because this has blown my mind. Star Wars is so important to me. And now I've got all these questions. It's like this weird Pandora's box that I never thought about, and now I'm going to have to find other movies that blow my mind this way because I'm sure he has to have some sustenance.
Yeah, he must, right?
Well, I do know Darth Vader's constantly in pain, they claim. Like his suit is designed to give him pain, and they make it sound like the Emperor did that to kind of keep him loyal, which is kind of weird in itself and kinky a little bit. But that's a whole other conversation. Heather, do you think? Did they have dinner?
I don't think they had dinner. I think Darth had dinner afterwards. He had them taken away, and then he sat there and took his mask off and had some food.
No, we don't see Lando. Do you think he had dinner?
I think he was feeling by the time. He was probably going to, but then he's like, no, I'd better not.
He's probably sitting in the other room, like, crapping his pants, like, oh, no, I'm betraying my friends. Like, he just doesn't have the cojones to sit with them.
Yeah, it took me a while to forgive Lando as a 12-year-old kid, even though he shows his true colors. But then he's wearing Lando's clothes at the end when he's flying the Millennium Falcon. And that disturbed me too. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that scene where they leave?
I don't remember him wearing different clothes, no.
Okay, well, Lando always wore those capes and like a nice blue and black pants.
Yeah.
But when they actually, at the end, when they show like, we got a cliffhanger here, You see
Mhm.
Chewbacca and Lando flying the thing, and
Yeah.
Millennium Falcon, and he's wearing a white shirt and a black vest, which is totally
Interesting.
like, I don't have anything. Maybe I should see if Han has something I can change into. Oh my
Well,
God. Are you going to rewatch Empire Strikes Back now? Because there must be other inconsistencies in that movie.
I think I watched it I think a year or two ago. I've actually been kind of rewatching the prequels right now because it's been so long since I watched them. And it's funny because as we're talking about this, I'm just trying to think of all the scenes in Star Wars where they actually eat. And I think of the one scene, the dinner scene in The Phantom Menace, where Jar Jar slicks his tongue across the table and Qui-Gon says, "Don't do that again." Um,
Counting the dinner
and
scenes from Star Wars. I love it. This show
yeah,
is
and
so amazing what we talk about on here.
and I think about like Anakin in the Attack of the Clones, like lifting up that pear in Padme's like hotel room or whatever. So like I guess Anakin definitely has a hunger. He likes an
Absolutely.
appetite. He likes to eat, I
Yeah.
guess.
And in the first Star Wars, Luke and Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen have that blue milk and they're having a dinner of some sort.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Which I
so
think
that, go on.
I was just gonna say I think it also happens in Attack of the Clones when Padme and Anakin go back to Tatooine to get his mom. I
I
remember
think so.
Padme has a tray of blue milk for Anakin to drink.
Yeah, well, we know, Luke and Anakin like their milk. We try to forget that because of The Last Jedi and the drinking it right from the, okay, he didn't drink it right from the teat, but seeing Luke milk that thing still is something I have to need therapy for. Um, I don't mind that he likes it au naturel. I just didn't need to see that. We could have had a scene where he actually mourns Han rather than milk something to get milk from it. And I feel weird talking about this while Luther is drinking.
Yes.
It's blue milk,
You
isn't
don't
it?
know what's in here.
What I do like now is that when we watch Empire Strikes Back now, we are all going to start smiling when we see that door and they stand in front of that door because we are going to look at every detail on that table. If there's biscuits, have they served the food yet? Yeah. And Luther's going to be looking for Lando wearing Han's clothes.
It's funny because like I always just think of that scene of like how like badass it is that like as soon as that door opened, Han just like opens fire without even like a single moment of contemplation, just like
Well,
and I
yeah, and that's what the meme was. And I thought it was funny, but I didn't realize it was going to blow my mind because it was like, look, if Darth took all this time to make this lovely dinner and then Han just starts shooting like a jerk, and I thought it was kind of funny. But then I thought about it and I go, why are they just sitting there waiting and stuff like that? But the clothes thing really bothers me too. But I just assumed he needed an extra pair of clothes, you know.
maybe it's maybe that scene inspired the beginning of Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are just like sitting and the robot brings them tea and while the Trade Federation viceroys are like, how do we kill them? What do we do? Maybe there's a cut scene of Darth Vader and Lando being the viceroys in Phantom Menace being like, oh no, Han and Leia are here. What do we do?
Well, people always say, why are you so bothered about that scene with Lando wearing Han's clothes? And I go, well, I'm not bothered by it, but it should be explained maybe. Like, oh, I don't have another change of clothes. I know it kind of might kill the dilemma, but like put it in, I always say if a scene bothers you in a movie, put it in the context of your own life. Okay, I hear that Luther has gone missing now. So I'm like, I got to do everything to find Luther. So I go and try to help, I talk to Muriel and I say, oh, how can I help you? And then Muriel goes, gets me something to eat. And then when she comes back, I'm wearing Luther's clothes.
That's a
Does
good way
that
to
not sound
contextualize it.
creepy at all? Like, first, the thought of me fitting into Luther's clothes is a little frightening because his sweatshirt would look like one of those tummy things on me. But but see, when you put it in that context, it kind of is freaky a little bit. The only other one I could think of off the top of my head, and no, I'm not going to go into a detailed thing about the volleyball scene in Top Gun again. I know why that was put in there. It's called to keep the gay men and the women happy during Top Gun. And and people who just like to look at nice looking bodies. But there is one of the most beloved superhero movies of all time, has one of the biggest plot, not, I almost said plot twist, but plot holes ever. And it bothers me that nobody talks about it. They just talk about this is the greatest film ever. And I go, but what about that scene? Don't mention it. We don't want to talk about it. In the movie The Dark Knight, you've seen The Dark Knight, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So there's the scene where Joker is at that party in the high rise with all the billionaires of Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
And Batman shows up, and I believe, I haven't seen it in a while, but I believe, I can't think of the character's name. Maggie Gyllenhaal gets thrown out the window.
Rachel. Where's
Right,
Rachel?
Rachel, you got it. Mike does the same thing. It's like, how can you, I don't know why I can't remember the name. I know it was Katie Holmes in the first one and Maggie Gyllenhaal. They go flying out the window. Batman rescues her. They fall on a car, and then it cuts to the next day. What is Joker doing with a whole bunch of billionaires now? I want to know what's going on in that room. You're telling me, okay, I'll see you guys later. No! He's doing stuff, but they're sitting there talking about their relationship or whatever on the car. And it's one of the biggest plot holes, and they just cut to the next day and we don't hear a massacre of billionaires. It's just like, no, please, grab some party favors. Oh my God, it's another dinner scene maybe. Oh my God. Okay, we gotta get off this. I'm getting confused now. I'm getting into a time warp of my own mind now. And that doesn't help with the movie we're about to talk about. Because, yeah. Okay, first of all, every once in a while, I see a movie because fate led me there. This is why fate led me there, is we have a viewer. I don't know if she watches these. She watches everything. And her name's Vicky. And I did a Misunderstood Movies. I can't remember which one, but she said, I would love to see the Japanese film 1977 House be a misunderstood movie. And the only House movie I knew is the 80s one. And I thought to myself, I've never heard of it. So I said, well, I'll keep an eye out for it. But it wasn't until the next day I watched a YouTube channel called Dead Meat with James A. Janice, where they do kill counts. And I like recapping my favorite horror movies while he counts how many people died in the movie. And I just happened to pick this one movie that mentioned House, the 1977. I have never heard of this. And in 2 days, I have now heard of it. So I went and watched the trailer, and I'm like, yeah, I got to hunt this out. I've got to hunt this down. And Heather, she's part of my bubble, so don't yell at me because I saw it. She lives right down the thing, so I consider her part of my bubble. And we watched it. Mike was with us. We watched it on Saturday night. And I, within 20 minutes, thought this is going to be added to one of my favorite cult movies of all time. I loved it. I was falling in love with it so much. And I thought, oh, this can never go wrong. Like, I don't think this could go wrong. And then when I read about this movie, I loved it even more because...
For sure, the backstory is great.
Yeah, it was... Sorry, I laugh because the movie was made because they wanted their version of Jaws. And there is nothing in this movie that reminds me of Jaws. Maybe
the house is the shark?
Yeah, I guess.
No.
And
the
then,
cat is the shark?
And then the screenplay writer got the idea from a lot of the ideas from a preteen who suggested that kids have better imaginations than adults. And a lot of the stuff that this girl suggested makes it into the house, makes it into the movie.
Yeah.
And then when they gave the screenplay up, you probably know all this, Luther. This is for the audience. They basically, every director that was in their movie house said, "I'm not going near this movie. It'll end my career." And eventually they got a director, and it actually was a box office success in Japan. And critics.
It was actually the writer ended up directing it.
Yes, that's right. He said, "Well, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And it was a big box office success for them, but critics didn't like it. And then we didn't get it over here until like 2009. It finally came over here, and critics actually liked it, but it wasn't like a mass success because it was in repertoire houses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it got a cult following really fast, and I'm surprised. I actually, it doesn't matter that I'm surprised. I'm happy when I find things that I don't know about, and then suddenly I'm like, how did I not hear this? Like the day I show Luther Roar. He will be saying that because I've threatened him with Roar. Do not ever watch that with anybody but me, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Deal.
I almost cried the night you watched Pink Flamingos without me. But Roar is mine. Roar is mine. I like people being their first time with Roar, and I get to see their reaction. But anyhow, yeah, and I asked Luther, I said, Luther, have you seen this movie? And it didn't surprise me that you didn't. That you did, sorry. And you actually rewatched it because I said, Luther, I need to talk about this movie. I need to talk about this movie. I'm going to pass it to you. You want to tell our audience what this movie is about without
okay.
giving anything away?
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't think there's any way to really. Are we gonna try to go spoiler free? Because I feel like if we go spoiler free, there's almost no point to talk about it.
I'm gonna tell you right now, people listening, we're gonna talk about this, and we are going to mention spoilers, but it's not gonna ruin this movie in any way.
Not at all. It'll make you want to watch it.
Yes. This is actually good because you will know by the end of this conversation if this is a movie you're going to run out and find or you're going to avoid. So yeah, listen carefully because this is one movie we're going to be talking about. So give us a brief general synopsis and
okay. So there's
Jaws.
there's a group of, I'm assuming, teenage girls, though sometimes it can be confusing because one of them seems to maybe be in a relationship with one of their teachers,
yes.
Which is weird. But anyways, so the group of teenage girls, their names are Kung Fu, Gorgeous, Melody, Mac, Prof, and there's two more I'm forgetting.
Angel?
No, there's Fantasy. Is there an Angel? Maybe there is.
Angel's the main one. I don't remember Gorgeous.
Gorgeous is the main one.
Okay.
I thought Angel was the.
Yeah, that's Angel then. It must be a different.
I think the one calls her Gorgeous all the time though.
Okay, wait. It could maybe we watched different subtitles.
The other one is Sweetie then.
Sweet, yes.
Sweet, yeah. So for those of you already keeping track, the fact that we can't figure out the 6 main characters tells you what kind of movie we're dealing with here. Okay, so we think we got them now.
Yes.
Yeah. So Gorgeous, Fantasy, Mac, Prof, Kung Fu, Sweet, and Fantasy. And so I think I would say the first 2/3 of this film, Gorgeous is the main character. Her dad comes back from Italy. They're in Japan, and her dad comes back from Italy and is like, I made a new girlfriend. She's going to be your new stepmom, and we're going on vacation. And Gorgeous is just kind of sad about it because her mom has died, and then she's kind of reminiscing of photos of her mom, and then finds a picture of her aunt and is like, I don't want to go on vacation with my new weird stepmom. I'm going to go to my aunt's house with my group of friends. And then they take the train to their aunt's house, and a bunch of crazy stuff happens. The aunt has been living in this house alone since Hiroshima, I'm assuming, because her husband was in the war and died, and she's just been alone in the house all of this time. And then they go to the house and a bunch of crazy stuff happens, and I guess we can kind of talk from there.
Absolutely. Let's start with the obvious thing. Isn't it great that we have characters that we're just going to name them for their character trait? The worst one, in my opinion, for this is I Heather and I both talked about this. We actually thought Mac was short for macaroni because we figured out she was the girl who likes to eat. But when we found out the movie it was short for stomach, we thought, oh my God, you know, like this is literally, you know, if you wrote a movie and like, this is pretty, this is action, this is smart girl, this is,
This one's the
I love to think
one. This one's the.
I love to think that that was a choice of the child who came up with the ideas for this.
Could be. Now I have to
And it's
say,
weird.
according to Wikipedia, they do claim it was a horror comedy. Now, I don't know if they filmed it like a horror comedy.
I don't think so.
Heather,
I don't know.
Do you think it was, or do you think this was some serious stuff going on here?
I think it's tough because I'm not that well versed in Japanese like film or television, because I feel like this has a lot of or pulls a lot of inspiration from television. Like the first, I would say, like half hour kind of feels like a soap opera with all the scenes with Gorgeous talking to her dad and the stepmom showing up and her looking at the photos, and it's really goofy, but it's like I don't know if this is goofy there, but like I think there are parts that are undeniably like there's no way this wasn't supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Like I just, especially the dialogue too, and just it's weird.
Yeah, and like, and you great. It does look like a soap opera because when they meet the new wife, she's always got a wind machine with her and a scarf in her hair. Like maybe Joel Schumacher came in to film those shots just to bring it together. And it reminded me of those Telelatina, you know, the Spanish soap operas that I love watching clips from, where they have quick editing and everybody's like got dramatic looks and stuff. And I really loved that, actually. I was kept thinking, and I think Mike and Heather were pretty much like, we're coming to the end of the film. I go, no, we still need to deal with the stepmother because that was such a big thing. Because that's such a big part of the movie, and then it disappears. And what a horrible way to tell, you know, by the way, I met a woman. We're getting married. Like, talk about, you know, like, and we're going on holiday. You know, and it's just like, that probably should have been handled in 3 different conversations.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking right now, and I'm like, if someone's listening to this and they haven't seen the movie, it might not sound that interesting yet, but the editing is, I think, really weird. The performances are so over the top. I think it's obvious by like their character names. It's very much like I'm Kung Fu, I'm athletic, and like I'm Mac. I eat a lot and stuff like that. But like I think like there are parts where like I love the parts where they do like the little circle vignette on a certain character. Like it'll be a wide shot and all these characters are talking, and then it does like a little black circle around one character so you can focus on what they're doing, which I think is actually like a really cool method.
Yeah, well, to me, speaking as the old guy here, that reminded me of like a lot of old movies that used to do that, like, you know, old comedy movies that would just, your face would go into like a thing and we'd separate you and stuff. Old cartoons would just suddenly have like that, or they'd finish the scene with that. Actually, I think it's sort of, maybe not in that same way, but I think Phantom of the Paradise even has some moments where they have, why did they choose to go to that? They've never done it at all, but there is a scene where I think it's a heart or something. So movies have used this, but yeah, they do use it. And like, I like the part, there was a scene where all the girls are talking and yapping and stuff. And then you're just knowing, you know, oh, Gorgeous or Angel, you could tell she's still thinking about what her father told her. And they literally put the circle around her trying to say like, well, I'm in my own little world. Yeah. And then she finally tells them all to like, just kind of shut up, because it's like, I'm dealing with stuff here. And we're going to my aunt's house.
Yeah. And I think a good introduction to the like, I wouldn't say a complete tonal shift, but a very different shift into a different kind of movie is when they're on the train and the window is like animated, like the train is animated, turns to cartoon. They're looking out the window. It's all like bright colors and it's all paintings and animation and stuff like that. Because like once they get off the train and like on the way to the aunt's house, things obviously take a very different turn.
And we can't forget Snowy the cat, who just kind of appears and does weird things every once in a while. And
what's the line? It's like a witch a witch can open a door, but only a witch cat can close a door. I think is one of the lines to some sort of establish a significance about a witch cat.
I really hope that was the line they used on the poster to promote it. Yeah, you know something's weird about this cat, but they're so endeared with this cat, and
it shows up everywhere. Right? It shows up everywhere, and they don't care. They're just like, oh, it's on the train.
Yeah, we're on a train. Oh, what's the cat doing here? Who cares? The cat's here. We're just happy the cat's here. I'd be like, why is the cat here? Cat's waiting for us on the train. Like, but we're not going to make this like a big deal, you know? And that's another thing. Like, I think I read that a couple of the actors did go on to stuff, but most of them were just kind of first timers and that was it. But I love how they're so nonchalant about some things. Like, you know, a character will go missing and somebody will be worried about it. Others are like, oh, you know, probably going looking for food. Like, oh my God. I wonder if the Disney Channel made a movie where they just had characters that were one, like, you're the sporty one, you're the smart one. Like, imagine doing that today. It's like, maybe they do, and they're hiding it better.
Yeah, I guess maybe we can go on to say that, yeah, like the aunt turns out to be some sort of witch, and the house is haunted with her, I guess. What?
I love the look of the aunt.
Yeah.
Like, actually, like she shows up in the wheelchair, and then you look at the road that she just went down. It's like, how the hell did she get there? She must have some kind of powers, because this road looks so bumpy. And you're telling me she was late when the door? I also I haven't seen you except once or twice in my life, but I'm bringing 6 of my friends. Oh, and the watermelon scene. When they're selling the watermelon, that watermelon guy was unbelievable. I wanted a spin-off universe series with that character because
he's a good character because like he's like friendly and like, you know, wants the best for the people that come by his fruit stand, but you know, he also knows that there's something screwed up about that house. Like, considering the fact that I think they kind of alluded to the idea of the fact that the aunt has been consuming non-married girls like for however many decades. It's like there's no way he didn't know that, like, oh, a group of girls are going into this house, they're definitely not coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And he reminded me of the equivalent of what I call the gas station scene. If you think of some of your favorite slasher films, when they go to a cabin, there's always a scene where they stop to get munchies and gas. And they always meet somebody in the town that tells them, what, you're going up there? But this guy did it with more zest and even like stands where the pumpkin is and like, hey, I'm zany, fellas, informative. But never really tries to stop them, just kind of, okay, I gave them enough information. Like,
it's just the nature of things.
Pardon?
I was just saying, it's just the nature of things in that area. You know, girls go up to the house and they don't come back. As long as they buy my watermelons, I'm okay.
Yeah, and I love that he seems to be selling watermelons at all times of the night, because when the teacher shows up, it seems like it's closing in on late at night, and he's there selling his melons, and it doesn't look like anybody's coming except if you're visiting. And yeah, I've never had a movie. Well, okay, I probably had a couple of movies, but I literally, every couple of scenes, I was just like, I love this movie. My only way I can describe it before we actually get into the craziness of the haunted house, and if we've got your attention now and you still don't want spoilers, now would be the time to turn off. But please come back after you watched it. But trust me, you will hear this stuff and you will think we are lying. So you'll want to see it because you're like, no way, it could be like this. But I only could describe it is that there are certain segments that seemed like every segment was directed by a different director. It was almost felt like a project, like, okay, you're going to direct this scene. Luther, you're going to direct this scene. This person's going to direct this scene. Devlin's going to direct this scene, because some of the scenes didn't really seem to match up. And I think that's what I loved about it, because I just never knew what I was going to witness next.
I kind of felt like it was like they said to the editor, use as many different effects as you possibly can, because every single thing that happens looks totally different than anything else.
You know what? Exactly. And when we started Mondo Nostalgia, I was like, Heather, learn every editing effect you can. And I'm thinking, I may actually make a movie using that now. Now that I know House was made, I may actually do a short story where I am all the characters in the movie. Yeah, so they get to the house, and we told you already the aunt's probably a witch. Well, she is a witch. Oh, I don't want to miss this scene because it was one of my favorites. When they actually do the memories of explaining the aunt and Angel Gorgeous's...
Where it seems like they're watching a celluloid film on a train.
It starts off like it's just memories. Like, well, why does she have this vivid memories? Because they're not her memories. These are just stories she was told. But then it's like they're doing commentary. Like all the girls are watching like a film instead of looking through a photograph. And I thought that was actually unique. But it was also like, are they watching this? Like I was like...
I'll say like there are no like forms of filmmaking in this film that I don't dislike. Like everything they do that's like, you know, atypical or whatever, I love it. Like I love it so much. It's so interesting, and I think that's obviously because the, you know, haunted house witch sort of stuff, which is cool, but it is kind of like a you know, a typical movie. You know, one person gets picked off one after the other, but it's obviously like the special effects and the weird editing style and the weird ways of like telling the story that make it so interesting, and it's really great.
And for the most part, the characters seem to die according to their name.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yes, and some
Melody's
of them for
killed
sure.
with music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac dies being treated
getting
like
the watermelon.
Yeah. And being digested, I think we could say.
I think. Yeah.
You know, because the ant seems very spry after Mac disappears. I still can't believe. Oh my God, there's a cat behind you.
Yeah.
Did it close the door?
So, well, we should say, so they get to the house, they stay, and the house is beautiful. They love it. They're so excited to be there. But then eventually, so Mac goes to get the watermelon and then is killed. But then when Fantasy finds her, it's her head that's been kept in this well where they're trying to refrigerate the watermelon, and her head is just flying in the air and biting Fantasy and rubbing its head up against her butt. And which I think she's the first to go. And then who's after that? Is it the girl that's crushed by a bunch of mattresses?
I think so.
Yeah, the futon cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I would. This is definitely one of the girl who came up with the ideas was. Apparently, this is a fear for preteens to be killed by a futon. I would never have thought it. I would maybe one of those big bunk beds or something falling on top of you, but that could just be my time spending at a cottage where I felt the bunk bed was going to fall on me and kill me. But yeah, and I didn't even know what was happening at that point, and then somebody had to tell me the bed's attacking her. Oh yeah, that's what's going on.
She stripped and then she disappeared.
Yeah.
And they're okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she stripped and was naked as a doll too. Was that the one who was kind of a doll?
Yes. I think she turned into a doll, or the doll ate her. I'm not entirely sure.
The doll showed up at the beginning, and then the mattresses came to life, and then all fell on top of her, and then she disappeared, and her clothes were scattered around the room, and then they found the doll. I guess it's not, I don't completely understand what the significance of the doll is. I think it's like one of the only things that isn't really totally explained is that, this doll just shows up out of nowhere.
Because if they all turned into dolls at some point, or like they went into a room and you saw like dolls,
that would
right.
That would make sense.
But they don't.
No.
But, yeah. Did you have weirdness with having the piano in the old examination room? Because we were like going, is this the examination room? Why is there a big piano in it? And then somebody was saying, I can't remember, it was Mike or Cortez, I don't think this is the examination room. And then we saw the skeleton and they said, oh no, there's a piano in the examination room.
Yeah.
And they forgot to clean out the skeletons.
And I think after that scene, before the other girls slowly get picked off, is the weird scene, which I love so much, and I can't remember completely the context of it, but when they're like, the skeleton and the ant have like a dance number, and they're like dancing, and they're like peeking around doors, and they're like, they're like, I'm gonna get you. No, you don't say it, but it's very much like, you don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, I know, and that should have been the line on the movie poster. You don't know what's coming next, because this movie is not one you can just predict.
No.
Yeah, that was a great scene, the ant skeleton dance sequence. I like any movie that has a dance sequence.
I think after then are like my two favorite scenes in the movie, just because the effects, and it's the one where Gorgeous, or Angel in your version, is doing her makeup and then like turns into her ant, and then like her face turns into glass and like is blowing off of her face, and there's like flames underneath her face and the eyes are floating. Like, I love, and I understand what you're saying with like each kill kind of seeming directed differently, because that was the one that like the other ones are pretty goofy, but that one is like actually creepy and like reminded me of like Fire Walk with Me or something like that, and it was like, this is so cool and like weird and like kind of like goth, and like it's a cool scene for sure.
What I was mentioning earlier about how they seem so calm, Fantasy is attacked by a head of a friend of hers that actually bites her in the ass, and then she's okay because she's going to have a bath with her best friend and waits for her. And it was like, you probably would be, if I had one of my friends' heads bite my ass, I'd probably be traumatized for probably a few weeks. But it just seemed weird, like, oh, okay, now let's have a bath together and I'll wait for you. And it just like so calm. And by this time, I believe there was another girl missing, I believe.
Yeah.
The mattress girl. Or wait, no. Maybe when they have the bath,
Yeah. And then you have like other deaths, like the Kung Fu one, which, the fact that they couldn't come up with something more clever than Kung Fu, like
for a name.
Yeah, like
I love it. I think it's the best name out of all of them, and she's like, it's funny because I think she kind of gets like a back seat for most of the movie, but then obviously when they enter the house and the chandelier falls and she kicks and karate chops the chandelier pieces, and the chandelier pieces hits a lizard on the floor.
I forgot.
Like it's kind of
the lizard, yeah. The lizard show up. And once again, if you just tuned in, all the same movie. Talking about House, 1977 Japanese film. Continue.
I also do want to say the Kung Fu's theme song is so good. It's like, it almost sounds like a game show, like showroom kind of song, and every time she's like attacking something, the music will come on. It's really great.
But if there's a soundtrack for this, because I think I was haunted by the end of the night of that whole piano playing death of melody, that I've never seen such piano playing since Reefer Madness. Chaotic. But that was an interesting death too. Death by piano.
Which
but
I think is
artistic
the
excellence.
hand. Oh yeah, it's the hands down is the best scene. Like that scene, it
No,
feels like
no
something
pun
out of like.
intended, of course, Luther. Hands down. The losing
I
hands
that
in this scene.
that that scene feels like something out of like Pee-wee's Playhouse to me. Like
Yeah.
if like the directors of Pee-wee's Playhouse had to direct a scene where a girl gets eaten by a piano, that's what it would look like. And I love,
That
and
was
it's
the
great
one.
too because
I love that scene. That's the one scene that I questioned if they were going for comedy because it just went on and on and on. And the little skeleton still dancing. I love the skeleton loves music so much. And it just keeps going on and on. And I go, okay, they must have known what they were doing at times. But then I'm like, yeah, maybe not.
Well, especially because like the music's playing and then it's like chunks of her body are like keyed in and like she's dancing but it's like just her leg and just her head and just her like tummy dancing to the piano as it's eating her.
And Fantasy gets knocked out by a body part that didn't even look like it hit her, but it just like this Fantasy looks like she passes out with anything happening.
Yes.
Except getting bit by the ass. Oh, we have another cat. Cats are invading all over. I'm going to warn you right now, I don't own a cat, so if anybody sees a cat behind me, be worried.
Shooting green lights out of its eyes.
Because I saw one in your kitchen, Heather.
Yep.
And I've seen one now there too. So yeah, if you see one, warn me because I don't own one, and I live on the 9th floor. And yeah. Yeah, this movie was magical. I love also with the piano scene, the fingers. I like how it ended artistically.
Yes.
It was
because it like
crazy, and then just
it's so funny because like as she's playing the piano right before it's about to eat her, you can notice that it's a green screen behind her, and you're kind of like, well, that's kind of an odd choice. And then she lifts her hands, and like obviously they like had green screen fingers, so it looks like her fingers are gone. And then it eats more of her hand, and like her hands are missing, and it's such a great scene.
It's interesting that you said that when she looks in the mirror and pieces of her come off, that you mentioned Fire Walk with Me. When we watched this movie, I believe the scene where she's first playing the piano, not when she dies, and there's the skeleton in the background, and they're all doing various things. I believe I said to Mike and Corda, if we turn the sound down right now and put the Twin Peaks soundtrack, this would fit. This would be like look like something from the first 2 seasons or Fire Walk with Me of Twin Peaks. Because there were moments that I was almost picturing, when's the red room showing up, and I'm just like, literally, we at this point could turn it down and, get the do, 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 do. And so it's funny that you made that comment because I was thinking, yeah, I wonder if Lynch saw this,
Yeah, there are definitely moments. Oh, this is Dexter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, sorry to disrupt the conversation.
No,
he's very needy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what he thinks of our show, people. Now,
sorry, go on.
No, you said you saw this as a college fundraiser. Like, was it?
Yeah. Before because I'd like to talk about my relationship with this movie, but I do want to talk about the end scene where like Gorgeous becomes the witch, and the house just fills with blood, and they're just like floating on furniture in just giant pool of blood that the house is filled up with, and I think that's like also an aspect of the film that I really, really enjoy because it's just like so over the top, and it also kind of freaky when they go under the water and they're like swimming in all the blood.
Yes, and artistic at times too. I really liked.
Oh, another scene that I love and I think is so funny because no one in the movie reacts to it is like after Mac dies in the well, they're pumping water out of the well, and it's just all blood coming out, and Prof is like drinking a glass of blood, and they're just like cut to the next scene.
Yeah, no one
and then cut to the next scene.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. It's I like that a lot.
Mhm.
I have to mention this because another thing I mentioned while we were watching, and then I want to hear about your relationship with this film for sure, since I explained mine just recently
Mhm.
why I had to find it. When I was watching it, there were many times I basically, now I know you don't know him that well, but you watched a lot of our reviews. I kept mentioning, if I showed this to Damien, his head would explode
Mhm.
because besides the cheesy effects and what's going on, but then I said, well, he does watch a lot of anime, or is
Mhm.
that be insulting to anime that if I said I would compare this?
It's funny too because yeah, like when you guys did your review of The Thing most recently,
Yeah,
and you were kind of like, I didn't like this one effect or something like that, where I was like, the effects in that movie I think are incredible, and
some
like
of
yeah,
them
like
are, but
thinking, yeah,
there's
oh
not.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But then yeah, thinking about like yeah, Devlin, or sorry, Damien watching this, and like not being able to forgive like one green screen shot in The Thing, and then watching something like this where like
Yeah.
the entire movie looks like a puppet show.
Well, Damien and I have been talking about because our still our biggest viewership is when we did Why Tu Mama Te Bien. So we've actually talked about doing some foreign films, and I really kind of want to show him this. I really do. He will not thank me for it, but I think he should see this. Um, Maybe I'll get him after I have to watch the next Matrix.
That's
So
The
tell me
fourth one's coming
about
out soon.
it is, and I told Damien if we're gonna do the third Matrix, we should probably do it around the time the fourth one comes out, just
Mhm.
to promote it. I've never seen it, and I cried through the last two reviews I did for them. So I don't know. I think I'll be in a fetal position with the third one.
Yeah, I recently rewatched all the Matrix movies, and I think I really enjoyed the first two, but the third one is very much like, okay, what are you doing here?
Oh man. See, that worries me
Prepare.
because that's what I said through the first two, and now I got to see a movie that the fans don't even.
Yeah.
Did you see our review for the one Matrix? I literally cried. Like I almost
Yeah.
tear
I
up because
I've watched it a few times.
I just feel it does, I have no human connection to that movie. And I'm glad other people love it and stuff, but it just I feel it's so cold. I've seen like documentaries about pottery that I had more warmth about, But anyhow, but yes,
Yeah.
off topic, we're talking about house. What's your relationship with this movie?
So I first found out about this movie when I was in college. I went to school for film production. And when we were fundraising for our thesis films, one group, well, I came up with this idea where we were going to do double bill movie screenings, and we can't legally charge for movie screenings, so they were free, and it was just like donate if you want
Yeah.
and buy some snacks if you want. But I think there were six thesis films in our program, and I picked each director for each film, and I said pick two movies, and then like we'll screen the two movies. You guys will have an opportunity to talk about your thesis film and what we're raising money for and stuff like that. And my friends Alex and Victor that were making this film, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but they were making a film about astronauts and cosmonauts fighting on the moon, and so they wanted to pick two movies that kind of inspired the movie that they were making, and they picked House and they picked Black Dynamite. And I had never seen House, but I think they had like just watched it, and they were
Okay.
like, "You gotta see this movie! It's crazy!" And they were so excited to show it to people, and there was like a lot of hype for it for me. And then like once you kind of hear about it, and then you go on the internet, you see that like a lot of people really like this movie. Like I think once it got onto Criterion and like people were finding it there, it kind of blew up. So yeah, I don't think too many people showed up to that screening. It was basically like me, my girlfriend at the time, another friend of mine, and then like three or four people who were involved in their film. And we're like rented out this big room on our campus, and we're just like watching this movie until like almost midnight. Well, the two movies. And then I think it was last Valentine's Day. I could be wrong about this, but it could have been the Halloween before that. But my friend Beth does this thing at Doors Pub where she um, gets group of people to to perform like live soundtracks to segments of films.
Nice.
And a group of people did music for this as well, and I got to see that, and that was a lot of fun. And that was like, oh, I definitely need to revisit that film. And then so then I watched it again when you brought it up that you had seen it, and I've been meaning to watch it for a while. And I'll admit, like, I love so much about this movie. I love the performances. I think the story is great. I think the characters are great. The effects are awesome. The music is awesome. But I'll admit, I think it's paced really weird. And that kind of irks me, and it bugs me, because I do, like, I think on paper I love this movie so much. But when I watch it, I think there's like 7 climaxes in this movie, and it kind of like something really crazy happens, and then it slows down, and then something really crazy happens, and it's like happens so sporadically that it kind of, it sounds ridiculous because this movie is ridiculous to like be critical about this aspect of it, but I feel like it really it stops me from really going into the world of the film. But it's still great, and I love watching it, and I love talking about it. So
I actually like this format. Because we usually talk about a whole bunch of different movies, but it was nice to actually just kind of focus on one film, which was quite nice, which I love to do. But unfortunately, you sometimes just don't have time to do that and stuff. But I'm glad we did. I felt this movie needed talking about. I'm definitely going to let the lady Vicky know that we talked about it, because she's hoping I will do it for misunderstood movies. And I go, yeah, I think it kind of applies. I've got a couple other ones coming up, but this one will probably show up again. And I know it's a good cult film for me because I want to show it to people.
Yeah.
I want to be like, have you seen this? Like this
Yeah.
and that's my enjoyment level. For me, it is just like a really big piece of art and stuff like that. Actually, you mentioned something. I don't know if we've talked about a lot of things. Did I ever tell you that when I was younger, maybe around your age, I used to put music to old silent movies.
I think you may have brought that up
Mentioned,
before.
yeah. I've always kind of wanted to try to do that again. I used to, and I didn't do it always to silent movies. I also did it to Disney's Fantasia. Obviously, I didn't show it anywhere except to my friends, but I actually did the history of pop and rock music in Fantasia with medleys and stuff that fit the visuals and stuff. And
You could do it with that Ralph Bakshi film called American Pop. That would be a good one to do it
oh,
too.
it would be, yeah, because I've got a love-hate relationship with that movie, but I watch it every couple of years, and I finally got a good copy of it a couple of years ago, and I loved it so much. Before we leave house 100%, I'm going to put you all on the spot here. All of you too. If you were going to show House with a double bill,
Ooh.
with another movie, what would you show it with? And you don't have to explain why, but you can if you want. You might want to
I'll go
show it with
second.
something totally normal, I
Hmm.
think I have one, but I don't know if it's really good, but it was because this is one of those movies, I'll be honest with you, there wasn't a lot that I could compare it with. Like, there were scenes I could compare with, okay, this reminds me of this movie, this reminds me of this. But as a movie as a whole, can you think of a movie that you would show this as a double bill?
Ah, gosh. I can't help but feel like, I know it's not a film, but it does remind, and I kind of like anything that I can feel like spiritually compared to anything Pee-wee is exciting for me. And I think I just the nature of the house, and because the sets are kind of, flimsy, and the piano eating scene, like it looks like a piano puppet, and it looks like something from Pee-wee's Playhouse. And I don't know, I would love to, yeah, maybe have like an episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse house, and then another episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Nice. That would work. That would work. I'm a big fan of Pee-wee's Playhouse. I actually liked near the end when I don't know if they knew they were wrapping up, because I know that show was really popular when I watched it. But there are a couple of moments in Pee-wee's Playhouse that I absolutely adore, just because I kept Mike and I, when I showed Mike the series, I always said, "Isn't it awesome that there were parents that probably came down and said, 'What is my kid watching right now?'" There, the one I remember the most is there's a scene where Pee Wee puts on a pair of high heel shoes and just walks back and forth to music for about a minute. And I imagine all the dads that came in and just saw their son just, what the hell are we watching right now? And I just loved it. And it was like, this has no educational value whatsoever, but we're doing it and it makes me laugh. Heather, do you have something for it? Do you have something you'd put it with?
It's bizarre. The only thing that comes to mind is, in some ways, it reminds me of an actually really good movie, um, Parasite, because it's got that weirdness to it, and you don't know what's going on, and it's got
Oh,
subtitles.
that's actually kind of cool. Yeah.
It's got the
And I know
Yeah,
subtitles,
and there's
and there's a lot
a
of story at the end.
the thing I loved
and
about
it's a creepy house.
Yeah,
yes, and the house is a character
yeah,
technically in both movies.
yeah.
But the thing I loved about Parasite is not knowing anything about it and
Yes.
remember like just every twist and turn is like, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And that's a great choice. Both of yours are great choice. The movie that I would put is a movie that I, believe it or not, just discovered this past Halloween. And I'm a little ashamed that I came late to the game to this one. Is the original Evil Dead movie, Sam Raimi.
Ooh,
Because
yes.
that movie, I did not expect a lot of the visual effects or what. Like it was a movie like I had already seen Army of Darkness, and I wasn't the biggest fan. But then I decided I really wanted to see the other two, and I saw the Evil Dead, and every time there were scenes in this movie, it was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of when I watched The Evil Dead, because there's things in that movie that I wasn't prepared for. And when they happen, I'm like, I like it. I like it. You know, I might not be prepared for it, but I like where it's taking me. So
Have you seen the second one?
not yet. I do want to see that.
And now that you're bringing this up, because I've seen like all three of them quite a few times, but I rewatched the second one because it's the one I've seen the least, and I think it's probably my least favorite out of the three, but I still really enjoy it. But I rewatched it, and I think I would compare House to Evil Dead 2 even more because like the goofiness is really cranked up to 10 on in the second one, and there's like scenes where like there's tiny little ashes that are like fighting him because they're like growing out of his body, and there's like a puppet of like this evil deer head that's hanging out of the wall. I think Evil Dead 2, and I'm excited for you to watch it and see the kind of similarities between these two films because they definitely crank up the goofiness in the second one, and I think it would relate really well to this movie.
Well, the game plan is I do want to see the second one, and then I'm going to rewatch the third one again. To see it more in context than because I know they're kind of different styles and stuff. So
yeah, well,
oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on. We don't have to talk about Evil Dead anymore. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's the thing that I love about having you on here, Luther, is we can just go off on a tangent and talk about anything and everything and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm still working on finding a way to review movies and stuff as my job. I would love to do that. Just getting paid to do that would be amazing. I know it'd probably never happen, but I'd love that. What I was going to ask you to wrap things up tonight is, okay, you've been in lockdown since March, and I want to know what you think Luther's going to be like when we finally, this is all done. Because if anybody listened to the podcast before the lockdown, Luther was always busy. He was either working with music, he was still watching movies and stuff, but he was also doing comedy. He was, he did filmmaking. I didn't know him back then, but he talked about maybe going into that one day again. But what I'm saying is now that you've been locked down so much, I'm interested do you have like, what do you picture Luther's going to be like when it's like, this is a really optimistic way because we kind of started like sometimes it looks like it's never
yeah.
So
I honestly
like
honestly well, aside from like watching a lot of movies, oh sorry, my cat is biting me. Just give me 1 second. I
No
apologize.
problem. That's Luther's elbow.
Yeah, so aside from watching a lot of movies last year, I think being forced to stay inside and not being able to like play with my bands or play shows or see shows or do anything out in the world, it really, I think I was able to consolidate the things that I miss the most in my head, and the things that I want to kind of like, I don't know, just support in the community and stuff like that. And like I've put on shows for bands before and stuff like that, but it's, I think even when Cheapies was closing, it was something that I wanted to focus on a bit more. And it's really tough right now because a lot of the music venues in the city are closing.
Yeah.
But I really, but like when the pandemic's over and hopefully I get a decent job, I really do want to focus on that and like getting cool bands to come in and play shows, and just trying to build a community. Because when I started getting into music locally in the city, there was so much happening, and there's a lot of places where shows were happening, people's houses, a lot like teenagers putting on shows, teenagers starting bands, and it kind of pushed me to want to do that. And I definitely think it's something that people still want to do and still do, but I think it's not as abundant as the way it was when I was a kid. So I know something that I definitely want to focus on after the pandemic is like putting on more shows, getting more, I don't know, diverse, bands in the city, different kinds of genres, and then also doing comedy. And I do also want to, I know I told you about this a while ago, but I started doing a zine where people review underrated films, and I want to focus on that and just kind of put a lot out there to try and draw people in and maybe expose them to things that they might not be otherwise be aware of in the city. Because I just like, that's what I really appreciate, and I want to be able to hopefully provide that for other people who may not be involved in creative communities in the city. And I'm really excited about when the Staircase reopens, because the folks there seem to be really into forwarding a lot of stuff and housing a lot of different creative outlets. And I've emailed them and be like, hey, when you guys open, I'd love to put on shows and stuff like that. So I'm really eager. I've made lists of bands I want to come play Hamilton, and yeah. So I that's a lot of what my mind is focused on, or things that I'm thinking about doing once the pandemic's over. And I'm really excited about it. Like I can't wait. Like I'm like, come early fall, late summer, hopefully a lot of us will be vaccinated, and I can just start like rolling out emails and like being like, can my band play at your bar? Can you come play, asking bands to come play Hamilton and stuff like that. So
yeah, I just wanted to know that because I've talked to some people about it, and you're hearing mixed things, because some people are just like you, like, oh, once everything's open again, I just want to get back to my life. I want to re-energize things that we're going to be missing. And I hear people talking about, I think people want to get back to see live music. I want to see live theater, going back to just getting out, having dinner, seeing people face to face again. And then I see other people that are like, I get the feeling that it's like, well, you know what, this is probably going to keep me in now. I'm going to be kind of a hermit now, and I've gotten so used to it. And so I'm glad to hear that, because I always loved your passion and stuff, and I'm glad to hear that you're excited about getting out there, because I think we need people like you that just appreciate all different kinds of arts, whether it's poetry or music or movies or anything, and you want to get out there, and comedy, of course, and you want to promote it. And I always love that it's not just about you. You like to promote other things, like other groups and stuff, which is wonderful. It's great to promote yourself and stuff, but it's nice. A lot of the stuff I do for Mondo Nostalgia, I also promote a lot of local businesses and stuff, even if it's not really nostalgic, because I figure anything to me is nostalgic. So, I have a friend who runs a candle shop. I'll promote that because, well, candles are nostalgic. Anything, you can make anything nostalgic. And You did make an interesting point that I wanted people to know, that if you're comfortable with it, the staircase actually opened last week. Now they are
Yeah.
only doing takeout right now, but that shows that they want to be open for when the doors can be open to welcome people in. And
Hmm.
it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting place, but they do have a full menu that you can look up. I think they might just be the weekends right now, but if you are comfortable, going out to get takeout or ordering, you can actually try their new foods because they did officially open. So it didn't sound like you might have known that yet. So if you were one of the local people watching this show, obviously if you're watching this in the States, it's not going to do anything for you, but they did reopen, and it looks like they got a lot of interesting things that they're going to be doing. I think
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
similar, but it's going to be different than what it was.
Hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens. And yeah, it is scary because I do feel that before we get to that happy point, we are going to see a lot of venues and stores and personal businesses faltering, and sadly, but let's hope that there will be an audience for that stuff so we can maybe see like a new uprising of stuff, because
Yeah.
I think the longer this goes, you're going to see a lot of stuff. Like every time I see like, how long is that going to last? And I
Hmm.
hate being like that because I like to be hopeful and optimistic, but then there's, the realistic side that I'm like, how can a small place like that last that long and stuff? So,
Yeah.
if you can support as much as you can, do what you can now, and hopefully when they come back, you feel comfortable enough to get out there again. Anyhow, Luther, I had a blast talking with you and Corda about House. I really like this format. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll do it
likewise.
again. Yeah, I liked concentrating on a few things. I actually still really liked our Empire Strikes Back talk, and it's gone over for me. I'm still going to be trying to find out the menu and stuff. Maybe I'll look up the screenplay, see if they have anything. And thank you for watching. And Luther, please come back. As I said, I'd love to have you back as a semi-regular. I
Yeah,
think
let me know anytime. Honestly, like I said, I'm not working. I'm just hanging at home and watching movies, so might as well be talking about it.
well, I'm glad we offer a little creative side to you. So
Yes,
we'll
I
definitely,
do really appreciate it.
and we will, yeah, we'll have you back and just we'll keep thinking of things to talk about. As I said, we want to talk music maybe one day, and there's tons
Oh
of
yeah.
movies we can talk about and stuff. Anyhow, thank you for watching. Thank you, Luther. Thank you, Corda. And we had a great time. I had fun. I hope you did too. We'll see you next week.